This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time TNA book a world title #1 contenders match with 10 spots to fill, they won't mysteriously forget to put Austin Aries in it.
Where the hell was Kenny King this week? You build up to his return with this new gimmick, you start a feud for him with MVP, and then the following week he's not even on the show? Not mentioned at all? He doesn't get a promo or a video package or a backstage pre-tape or anything? You know, TNA, if you're wondering why you sometimes have trouble creating new stars, stuff like this is a big part of it.
Oh, you were not aware of this?
You know, I had a moment during this #1 Contenders Knockouts match when I realized that, goddamn, there's 4 women out there, 5 if we're counting Velvet. That's the majority of the Knockout roster right there. And the only one that I want to see get anywhere near the Knockouts Championship at this point is the girl that only debuted a month ago. Now, Brittany has been fine so far, TNA, but for God's sake, keep going. Don't stop there. One new knockout is not enough. You need more.
Yes!
This match wasn't bad. A little chaotic. I thought it would have been better if only 2 women had been tagged in at one time, but it was pretty decent. But it was so hard to get invested in it with the way I felt about most of the people involved. With the exception of Brittany, this was just stuff we've seen from the Knockouts a million times before. Brittany seems really solid in there. There was one awkward moment when she hit her finisher on ODB, almost made a pin attempt, and then just stood up because there was a spot with Angelina there. But other than that, she did just fine. But we still haven't had a match that's about showcasing her and what she can really do. I'm still waiting for that, and I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Gail was her usual self. Nothing you could poke holes in there. ODB, I think, is boring as hell at this point. You know what you're getting with her these days. She just does the exact same stuff she's been doing forever in every match. It's very old, and I don't care to see ODB in this division anymore. And I know this is premature because she just came back and she's only had 2 matches, but I've been very underwhelmed with Angelina Love so far. I mean, she was never an incredible worker, but she was decent enough back in the day. But I don't know, since she's returned, I've found her to be pretty unimpressive in the ring. I swear, I remember her being better than this. Maybe it's all in my head, but she seems like she's lost a step or 2. Has anyone else noticed this, or is it just me? So the beautiful people do the hairspray and the face finish on Gail, because what's old is new again, apparently, and God forbid they do something different with the gimmick this time. Angelina wins, setting up a title match against Madison Rayne that I don't want to see, and a probable title change that I want to see even less. The match was alright, but I'm thinking about the outcome and what this might lead to, and quite frankly, I'm bored already. Sign new knockouts. You know, I hate to point out the obvious here, but Dixie Carter being all over the show this week is why she needed to be taken off TV in the first place. And I don't dislike the heel Dixie character, I really don't. I think when she's used in moderation and they don't go overboard with her, she's perfectly fine, and she can generate a lot of heat. But every time she's there, they end up using her way more than they need to, and she gets really overexposed really quickly. Bringing her back to TV so soon before the fans really had a chance to miss her at all just felt like the wrong way to go to me. At any rate, she has this segment with Bully Ray. It's actually quite good for what it is. But while the promos were strong here, and they did get a big reaction from the crowd, they were doing an awful lot of talking without saying anything we didn't already know. This felt like they were stalling for a really long time just to set up the Bobby Roode run-in. So Roode and Bully fight for a minute, and that's perfectly alright. Bully gets the better of him, Roode runs off, and then it gets weird. Dixie is backed into a corner, alone in the ring with Bully Ray, and it really looks like she's about to get put through a table. But then they cut to commercials, and when they come back, Dixie is suddenly backstage, none the worse for wear.
What the fuck?
What the hell just happened? How did she get away? Did Dixie just teleport backstage? She must have, because the only other explanation for this is that Bully Ray changed his mind about putting her through a table for some reason and just let her leave. What?
This is unbelievable. This doesn't make any sense.
But aside from that, I guess you can't complain about this too much. Even if it didn't really cover any new ground and might have gone longer than it needed to, it was still a pretty hot segment, so it did what it was supposed to do at least. And as it turns out, a lot of this applied to the Christy Hemme Samuel Shaw segment as well. But oh man, did I feel differently about that one. Week after week, I'm getting more and more weirded out by this storyline, and not in a good way. Christy tells Samuel Shaw that she wants to make their relationship work, and she gets him to close his eyes for a really long time, and apparently Shaw is a complete idiot because he's the only person on Earth who didn't know what she was really doing, setting him up for Anderson. And maybe it's just me, because I'm really down in this storyline right now, but good lord, this part felt like it went on forever. He's standing there with his eyes closed, and she's like, here comes the surprise, Samuel. Here it comes. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it just a little longer. And oh, God, it's just going on and on. And then came the moment that this storyline officially became a cartoon. Anderson drives up in a mental institution van, because he just had one of those lying around, I guess. He hits his finisher on Shaw, jaw jacks with him for a minute, drags him into the van, and then Shaw breaks out of the van, runs away, and Anderson just lets him leave. He doesn't chase after Shaw or anything. He just stands there like, well, I guess he got away. Nothing I can do now. Why didn't he go after him? You could have tried to catch him, Anderson. He wasn't that far away. If you didn't feel like running after him, you know, you did have a functioning vehicle right there that you brought to the studio. You could have driven that van after Shaw and caught up to him quite easily. But you're not going to do anything? Why not? Bad, strange, campy, confusing segment. And yet, once again, it got over. The live crowd did react to this. This angle is bending my mind into a pretzel. Somehow, some way, it worked. It did get a rise out of people, but I'll be damned if I can figure out why.
I will not participate in this charade this evening.
So the Wolves get their much-anticipated tag title shot, with the wrong graphics during their entrance, but it's against Jesse Goddard and DJZ. And Robbie no-showed because they were trying to weasel out of defending the titles again, but MVP isn't having it. And Zema Ion substituting for Robbie meant the match was better than it would have been. Of course, Davey and Eddie are still wrestling circles around these guys. It was a pretty good tag match while it lasted. The Wolves are awesome, but everyone saw the finish coming a mile away. The Wolves are about to win, Robbie shows up, causes a DQ, and the Wolves winning the tag belts is delayed. Again.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
TNA, would you please just do the damn title change already? We know the Wolves are the top team in the company now by a wide margin. You've told us this. We know the Bromance are completely worthless as the tag team champions, and their entire title reign, both of them, have been an absolute waste of fucking time. You've showed us this. They don't appear regularly, they've never had a single real feud, and on the rare occasions when they actually win matches, it's usually just to facilitate a storyline for somebody else.
You guys suck.
You've gone out of your way to protect the Wolves and make them look really strong, while the Bromance are constantly booked like glorified jobbers. They haven't actually gotten over on the Wolves even once in any way, shape, or form since this thing started, and at this point we all know that they're probably not going to. There's zero basis for a compelling feud here. Zero. The first real, honest-to-God shot the Wolves get, those belts are theirs. That's the only way it can work, because that's how you've set this up. So when you have the Bromance weasel out of defending the titles or pull this intentional DQ crap, all you're doing is frustrating people by waiting and waiting and waiting to pull the trigger on the Wolves as the champs when there's no reason to. That didn't make me want to boo the Bromance. I just shook my head and went bullshit at this. The Wolves lose something the longer you drag this out because the Bromance pose no real threat to them whatsoever, and everyone knows it.
Oh, my brother! Testify!
You're not making the Bromance look better. You're making the Wolves look worse by dragging them down to the Bromance's level. And all for the sake of pointlessly delaying the inevitable moment when you finally get the tag titles off these lame duck placeholder champion ass clowns so the Wolves can win them, be anointed as the real tag champions, and start defending them in a real feud against a real team like Bad Influence or Mother Humpin' Beer Money. Oh yeah, James Storm still got that Feast or Fired tag title shot last time I checked. Him and Bobby Roode were looking pretty chummy in that opening match. Well, you know where this is probably going, TNA. So please, let's stop dragging this out and just get there already.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
Oh my God, where to start with this Eric Young thing? The show begins with a gauntlet battle royal to find a #1 contender for Magnus. Eric Young wins, and then he's like, screw waiting until Sacrifice, I want my title shot tonight. I have no complaints about either bout. Both good, solid matches. That wasn't the problem. The problem was everything else. This whole scenario felt contrived to me. MVP finally decides to use his brain, bans Abyss from ringside during the match because he can do that now, and says that if anyone interferes, they're fired. And if Magnus gets himself DQ'd, he loses the title. Strange how that last part couldn't apply to the Bromance in the tag title match, but whatever. So MVP is finally doing the smart, logical thing to do. But why on earth didn't he just do this when Samoa Joe was facing Magnus for the title? What, then he handcuffed himself to Abyss at ringside, but it took MVP until now to figure out that that was a really stupid idea? Why can he put a stop to Magnus rules now, but not then? You can see where they're going with this. I guess they want to do a Joe heel turn or do Joe versus MVP at some point. But it's going to feel so forced because they're having MVP either act incredibly stupid or act like he's kind of showing blatant favoritism toward Eric just to set this up. I totally get why Joe would be pissed off because he really did get a raw deal here. I mean, hell, I'd be pissed off too if I were him. The problem is, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be siding with MVP in this situation. So Magnus has to defend the world title against Eric without Magnus rules, and he is not happy about it. Why? Eric already wrestled once that night, so he's tired. And, as he just pointed out for you 2 minutes earlier, he's injured. This is the perfect time to face him. For God's sake, Paper Champion Magnus should have been thrilled to face Eric Young that night. Would he rather wait until Sacrifice when Eric is healthy and rested? Come on!
Urge to kill rising.
I guess the bottom line is that TNA wanted everyone to think Magnus was a paper champion because he was a paper champion, and there was never any plan to book him otherwise. The guy couldn't win a game of rock, paper, scissors, much less a wrestling match without tons of help. And here, even though they got rid of Magnus rules, he still went in with the advantage of facing a guy who was tired and less than 100%, and he lost. Magnus as the world champion had potential. Is he the greatest wrestler on earth? No. But he can hold his own, and he has all the other intangibles that you want in a top star. His title reign could have worked. But so many people have written it off now. He was booked horribly all the way through. It's almost as if his run with the championship was set up to fail. It's like someone in management intentionally sabotaged him. I don't get it.
This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
And now Eric Young is the world champion. Huh. An underdog babyface with a huge beard and an arm injury, wrestling 2 matches in one night and winning the world title. Something about this whole thing seems oddly familiar, but I just can't put my finger on why. I guess it's just one of those things.
No, no, no.
Or maybe not. Look, whether this was intentional or just a really bizarre coincidence, I don't know. And I'm not saying it was one or the other. But unless TNA management had completely taken leave of their senses, they had to know what this was going to look like. And you must admit, TNA, it is kind of suspicious that you just happened to hotshot this angle with Eric Young this week of all weeks without even bothering to build it up that much first. 2 weeks ago, Eric didn't even want to be the world champion. He didn't care about the title. But now, suddenly this is something he's waited for 10 years? When in the blue hell did that happen? That's a big damn 180 to do with a character all at once with no explanation, TNA writers. Just saying. Oh, but Fool Killer, you liked it when Chris Sabin won the world title, so why not this? This is the same thing. No, it's not. At least in that situation, Chris Sabin had a nice little relatable underdog story coming back from the knee injuries. He's a guy that was a little more legit, had some credibility building accolades under his belt, and wouldn't have felt awkwardly out of place getting a shot like this. What's more, Chris Sabin was a more serious character that did not have a long history of A, doing unbelievably stupid shit to the point where he felt more like a clown than a wrestler, and B, being given multiple championships for no other reason than to kill them. That was a recurring theme for a while. You want to kill a title belt? Give it to Eric Young, let him make a joke out of it. And now he has the world title belt. Oh my God! And all this begs one very important question. Eric Young? Really? The guy who was Super Eric. The guy who once did a storyline about how he was afraid of monsters. The guy who used to take his pants off in every freaking segment. That guy? The guy who not that long ago was one half of the women's tag team champions is the heavyweight champion of the world. Wow. Some people hated this. They said it was like Santino Marella winning the WWE title. I wouldn't go that far. Santino is a 100% comic relief character. Eric has a little more to him than that. At least Eric is capable of being serious when he wants to be. But we haven't seen that from him nearly enough. Just recently, he was the scientist teaming with Joseph Park, and now suddenly he's the world champion. It just seems like there was very little done to prepare his character for this. When Austin Aries won the world title, it came after a solid year of him being built up organically, so when it happened, people were really ready for it and clamoring for it. This felt like the writers just randomly flipped a switch and went, well, I guess Eric's a world title contender now because why the hell not? Credit where it's due, Eric Young is a talented guy. He's a great wrestler when he gets the chance to show it. He's undeniably popular. He's got crossover appeal with his Animal Planet show. This episode did draw a pretty big uptick in viewership, let's not discount that. And every single ridiculous, ludicrous, stupid-ass thing the writers have given him over the years, and there's been a lot of it, he's run with it, and he's almost always found some way to get it over. An argument can be made that he deserved a short title reign like Storm and Sabin got as a pat on the back if nothing else. And under much different circumstances with much better build-up and a much better story, this might have come off better. More people might have been receptive to this. But we didn't have better build-up. We didn't have a better story. What we got was a man who, over the last 10 years, has rarely been more than a comedy mid-carder, undergoing a sudden, drastic, and somewhat unmotivated character shift, and getting hotshotted to the world title in a matter of weeks in a move that seemed poorly planned out and felt like it was mostly done for shock value and possibly to piggyback on the excitement generated by something that was just done a hell of a lot better in another company. I don't expect Eric's reign to last very long. My guess is they do a rematch at Sacrifice and Samoa Joe costs him the title. This probably is not a long-term thing. I don't begrudge Eric Young this moment. He has worked incredibly hard, been very loyal to the company, and been a shockingly good sport about a lot of really stupid crap they've had him do over the years. But I'm sorry, taking the former leader of the Prince Justice Brotherhood and making him the world champion with so little done to make this feel like management didn't pull it out of their ass just for the hell of it was a little more than I was willing to accept. I didn't know what to make of this episode. The wrestling was quite good, but there were some absolutely baffling production gaffes, and from a creative and writing standpoint, this entire Eric Young angle felt rushed, sloppy, and pretty ill-conceived. I think it's a testament to Eric Young that he was able to sell this to the extent that he did, but if TNA were really going to go down this road, then he and Magnus deserved better, and quite frankly, so did we. Over. Out.